How's it going, guys? And welcome to the showdown between the Greenskins, led by Wurzog, and the High Elves, who are going to be led by Tyrion. So let's jump right into this match, guys, and have some fun. So over here in the Vanguard, I do have three groups of skirmisher units. The first one are the Forest Goblin Spider Riders, and they're going to be supported by two regiments of renown. So over here, the Morgub's Mangy Marauders. These are actually my favorite pick in this matchup. These guys are extremely mobile with 92 movement speed, and they also have armor-piercing attacks. So one of the bigger issues for the Greenskins is dealing with the dragons and those big monstrous threats. BOARS can do an okay job. They have good armor-piercing attacks and anti-large, but they do have low melee attack, low melee defense, and they also terror out quite easily. So I think one of the better ways to deal with dragons and phoenixes and those big threats is to use the Rusty Arrows, regular Night Goblin Archers, once their armor sundered, of course, and also these three types of skirmisher units. So basically, you get the really good armor-piercing values out of the Morgub's Mangy Marauders, and then you get the poison from the Death's Creepers. So if there is a Phoenix, which is incredibly fast, the Flamespire Phoenixes have like 120 speed, and I think the Frostart Phoenixes have 100. So being able to kite them and poison them with the Death's Creepers and then, pierce whatever armor they have, which isn't much, but, definitely helps out against dragons with the Morgub's Mangy Marauders, is some seriously good stuff. So that's pretty much it for my skirmishers. In the front line, I do have a combination of Orc Boys, which are basically just a filler unit, but they are shielded, 34 weapon strength, definitely not pushovers. And these are the real kind of meat and potatoes of my army, the Black Orcs. And these guys are definitely one of the better great weapon infantry in the game now. They might not have as good of combat stats as like Hammers and Swordmasters of Hoeth, but they have a lot of perks to them. They have 110 armor, which is very heavy duty. They have a nice charge bonus of 30, but 50 weapon strength is huge on a great weapon unit. And also, guys, they are immune to psychology. So in a lot of frontline matchups, one of the best ways to beat great weapon infantry is with monstrous units. So you often see units like Crocscores beating down Swordmasters of Hoeth, and big scary Shaggoths and different things like that in the front line. But the Black Orcs are not going to retreat against any spooky, scary stuff. And Phoenixes in this matchup also cause fear and terror. So having the Black Orcs be immune to psychology against, I honestly think Phoenixes are really good in the Greenskin matchup. Granted, my opponent decided to go with more of a Dragon Prince build, which is still pretty good. But having these kind of a really durable immune to psychology units in the front line is a staple. For my lord, I do have the mighty Great Green Prophet riding atop his noble pig. So he's a good pick as well. Effigy of the Gid is a great ability in competitive play, locks him down. They actually got rid of the Wah on him, which is a really big bummer, but he still has Get Back here so he can buff leadership. He has Foot of Gork, there we go, all these kind of good big Wah buffs, and he also has the Bonewood Staff, which I think is incredibly powerful. So whenever he casts spells, he triggers a buff across the entire map, which gives your troops a 13 melee attack and also a charge bonus of 18. So that 13 melee attack is really good. I mean, that's going to put your Black Orcs into a pretty dangerous threshold right there. On top of that, you have some other cool abilities. Wurzog's Revenge, so all opponents on the entire map get like a 50% miscast chance, which is incredibly strong. So I can see why they took away Wah from him, because he already has so many different tools. Granted, I don't know if it was necessary, a little bit hard to say. He has Wurzog's Warpaint, so he gets physical resist, so definitely some good kind of tricks on him. So that's it for my army, guys. My apologies for the long-winded introduction for my opponent. He has a front line of white lines, which I think are pretty solid. Good armor piercing, good armor, so they're pretty durable against like, Orc Boys and Savage Orcs and things like that. And just a really good unit. I'm really a big fan of white lines for the 800 gold you pay. I mean, Black Orcs will obviously annihilate them one-on-one, but Black Orcs cost a lot more. They cost like 1150 or something. He's got some Spearmen to kind of fill his ranks, very similar to what I was doing with my Black Orcs and Orc Boys. He also has a couple Lothar and Seaguard in the back who I really like in this matchup because you don't have to protect them. You can just let them take the Wolf Rider charges or any other damage, and they pretty much function on their own. He does have Tyrion with Sunfang, definitely a strong pick, two Dragon Princes, and I think that's pretty much it, guys. So the Dragon Princes are going to be pretty scary for sure, but just kind of harassing them with these like poking skirmishers, and you can see I'm just kind of scuttling about in the front line and shooting these guys as I go. But I figured the Lothar and Seaguard would basically annihilate my missiles, so I just pulled back here and I was like, all right, I'm just going to use my skirmisher units to kind of take out his cav and different things like that, and hopefully get some pretty good value. So in the front, the Orc Boys do get roasted by Sunfang. I definitely would have waited if I were my opponent to try and wait till I was a little bit more bunched up. But the Black Orcs are taking some skirmisher damage, which is definitely a little bit rough, but they are going to engage, and it should be a pretty good fight for the boys here. So a little bit of a slow motion charge here as they collide with these guys in the front. You can see the Orc Boys are going to get a downhill charge, which is going to be really good for them. And these Elves, they're definitely going to take some heavy shock damage from those Black Orcs. On the far side of the battlefield, the Dragon Princes are engaging with the Broken Tusk Mob. I forgot to mention them. Regiment of Renown, really good. They actually have much better stats, and they also have 90 armor, which is going to be great against Dragon Princes. And guys, a big old erect Foot of Gork coming down right here, and you can see it's going to smash on these guys. So you didn't see the damage initially, but now it kicks in. Look at that. Those Dragon Princes got annihilated. I do have my skirmishers shooting them as well. So they're getting armor pierced by the Morgub's Mangy Marauders. You can see Wurzog is all proud atop his mighty War Pig, and he does drop Fists of Gork, which actually imbues magic damage now, so it's a pretty good way to deal with ethereal units. So they're doing okay against the Dragon Princes. They're definitely losing 1-1 because Dragon Princes are so elite, but still putting up a really good fight as far as like Greenskin Cav goes. So I bring Wurzog in. He has really good AP. He's also being supported by a Goblin Big Boss here who's applying poison. And you can see the Dragon Princes are kind of being dragged into the mud. I did have to pull back with my Rusty Arrows because I was getting destroyed by these Lothern Seaguard. Very well played by my opponent there, kind of focusing down my Rusty Arrows. Definitely a very high value target. And you can see these Dragon Princes are trying to get to my skirmishers, but I just have so much mobility. I'm just kind of like shooting these guys down off their horses as they retreat. It's definitely going pretty well, and it looks like they are indeed broken. In the front, the fight's a little bit more pitched. You can see these white lines are doing well against the Orc boys, but pretty much wherever the black orcs are going, things are going well. And you can see they're just crushing these high elves, and they're like on the low ground. It's just these giant imposing orcs just chopping them down here, which is pretty great. So the black orcs doing some good work, and they shouldn't hold for that much longer. On the far side, I did get some orc boys around, so I did a bit of a long kind of run around with these guys, but they're going to get in there, and they do have 40 melee attack right now because of the Bonewood Staff. So man, such a strong buff. Anything that's like map wide, and the Lothern Seaguard actually countercharge them. But I still think the Orc boys will do pretty well. They have much higher weapon strength, but sustained combat stats, yeah, with that 40 melee attack, these Lothern Seaguard are going to get cut to pieces. On the far side, you can see my Skirmisher squad is in pretty good shape. Balance of power is still very even, despite me having killed the 2 Dragon Princes. That Foot of Gork was definitely a big deciding factor, because he had a very advantageous situation where the Foot of Gork took place. But once I was able to get that, like his whole front line there just like buckled. Over here you can see I do regroup my Rusty Arrows and Night Goblin Archers, who are going to be shooting into some of these Spearmen, doing a pretty good job. But he still does have these Lothern Seaguard back here, and I love when they just shoot like straight up. It is such a janky looking mechanic, but it goes after the Orc boys, and they are routed off. At least they do have shields though, so that's kind of why I like them as a fodder unit here. And the Black Orcs just rolling deep right here, continuing. Just can't even find words for how awesome they are. Just continuing to kind of cleave these guys on the hill, doing a very good job against Tyrion, despite his buff. He actually got a huge buff to his armor piercing, so Tyrion hits pretty hard. For sure. His armor piercing values, I don't think it still says it in his tooltip, but let's go ahead and pause and see if I can show you guys. So I think he's poisoned right now, so it's not a great depiction, but I think his AP damage, yeah, he's poisoned. So, and poison, if you guys look, it does affect his armor piercing quite a bit by 20%. And I think his weapon damage overall, so it's really, I can't really show you guys right now, but he did get a massive buff to his armor piercing damage, so Tyrion is a much better duelist right now. Some of these Orc boys coming back from route, going to get a nice cinematic charge here versus these white lines, and I'm telling you, Orc boys are a really good filler unit. I mean, they have okay, leadership, I guess, and they have shields, but on top of that, 34 weapon strength on a fodder unit, it's like 450 is pretty good. On the far side, you can see these black orcs have cleaned up shop, and these Lothern Seaguard were kind of trolling me a little bit. They were just shooting into my ranks and not letting me chill. So I basically decide here in a moment to just get all of these guys. I'm like, you know what? I feel like these 3 cav, especially with the Air We Go from Warzog over here, would be able to kind of crush these guys. So the Pig Lord over here does have his broken Tusk Mob, and I have kind of engaged on some of these Dragon Princes that have rallied. You can see the Anti-Large and Armor Piercing doing a really, really good job on these guys, and Warzog is going to be casting Air We Go. So all of these guys who have pretty pitiful melee attack are now up into the 80s. So they're actually going to be a real force to be reckoned with and kind of circumvent that very high melee defense of these Lothern Seaguard. So the Lothern Seaguard have 40 melee defense, which is normally really good against these units, but look how hard they're getting melted. I mean, they're going down incredibly quick against these like Skirmisher missile cav. So I definitely like that kind of synergy there. And Warzog I think he's a pretty competitive pick. You have to watch out in factions that do have like really powerful flying lords that can kind of hunt him, because he is kind of squishy. He does have that physical resist and some other attributes, and Effigy, if we get, can protect him. But I think Warzog is really safe and you can see Tyrion was about to hunt him, so I actually just Effigy him down. But if you bring this kind of goon squad, I'm telling you guys, give it a try. It's a really, really mean kind of synergy. You bring these 3 units, and anything that chases Warzog, you can just protect him with these. Apply poison, pierce their armor. It's just such a powerful kind of group of 3 skirmishers, in my opinion. So Black Orcs performed really well, 109, 161. Definitely outclassed infantry. He did have a lot of spearmen, and honestly, I think it might be more effective in this matchup just to get because so he could have gotten 2 extra white lines. So I think honestly, just getting like 5 white lines, you don't need the spearmen really, because the spearmen, I mean, they're a cheaper alternative, but 5 white lines would have been really good. The Lothern Seaguard don't really need protecting. Like, even though they did get engaged on, like I had to spend a lot of stuff to get back there and engage on them. He could have even used the Dragon Princes a little bit more defensively, or peeled the spears back. So he uses the spears in the back, Dragon Princes slam into the front, pull back, cycle charge my front line, and then that kind of forces my broken Tusk Mob to kind of look for an engagement, which is a little bit tricky, but I don't know. He also didn't have a caster, that's another thing, but I have seen quite a few people on ladder do this, where they just invest so many resources in these Dragon Princes they can't afford a caster. And Tyrion does have Sunfang and some pretty good utility there, so he can kind of serve as a fake caster, but I still think it would have been helpful to have I don't know, I really like High Magic. I feel like Shield of Safri is really good. So how that works with High Magic, guys, is whenever you cast a spell with High Magic, it triggers a map-wide buff of all your troops for 11% ward save against all types of damage. So that's really good for not only do High Elf troops have really good kind of defensive stats and with martial prowess, but on top of that, you stack Shield of Safri, and that would have helped quite a bit in the Black Orc battle for sure. But I do like the build. I'm not a huge fan of the Spearmen in the main line in this matchup. There are matchups in which it's pretty good, but I think the White Lions they trade well enough with Black Orcs, especially if they outnumber them. like 5 white lines. The white lines would have been able to massacre the orc boys and then probably trade okay with the black orcs, especially if being supported by dragon princes. But I do like the direction he was going with the build. Heavy cav are pretty good against greenskins because, again, orc boars in the traditional sense do kind of get run over by most cav, even though they have anti-large and AP. But the broken tusk mob is kind of an exception. They have really good armor, pretty good leadership for an orc boar boy biggin, and I think they're a really good pick, so definitely recommend trying them out. And they have 90 armor, so they're going to be a little bit more durable against missile fire and different things like that. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this greenskin game. I know quite a few of you guys had been asking for them, and I honestly think they're pretty strong. I've been playing them quite a bit and had some pretty good success. And, definitely no complaints. I really like the buffs to the Black Orcs. But, yeah, well played to my opponent, to Jesus Uncrossed. We'll look forward to running into you again on ladder. And, hey, guys, got a lot more content coming soon.